Good afternoon or good evening, my dearest colleagues. Yes, because of the time difference, we do have very different time zones and feelings, name is on the day as well. So, how have you been? I haven't seen you for a week. It seems to be like ages. I had a packed week. I hope yours was really optimistic, maybe even relaxing. For some of you, maybe inspirational or educational. So, how have you been? Really glad to see you again. Hello, everyone. It's absolutely incredible both to see some familiar and some new names in our chat. So, that's that should be great. More educational than relaxing for Yelena. Oh, okay, I see. So it sounds as if there is something hidden in this sentence, actually. Mine was also pretty educational. And today, yeah, you remember that we are talking about TOEFL, tough before exams. Oh, and yes. Oh, right, okay. With Irina was lucky. There was a little tiny chance to relax. Okay, great. Oh, you made a speech at the Festival of Pedagogical Ideas. Wonderful, congratulations. Great. That is really great. So, I'm proud of you. I hope you are actually proud of yourself as well. Well, do I have a possibility to put a like there? Let me check. Oh, yes, I can. Great. Uh, so, we are continuing our TOEFL experience. You asked me for materials, and you asked me for both for materials and answers. So here they are. That is official TOEFL IBT test together with audio. I know it actually claims for piracy. However, I suppose we probably need them right now for our class as well. Okay. Wow. Marina, you are also doing, oh, another my course? Oh, okay. In this period of time. And you are joining us for an interactive session. That's wonderful. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you too. So, after we were particularly impressed, in fact, by our beautiful TOEFL reading, right? And some of TOEFL listening, which seem to be hard to a certain extent. And yes, I agree with you. It's rather unpredictable and can be hard. We are coming to speaking and writing, which normally, if we are talking about Cambridge Suite, if we are talking about Russian national exam, if we are talking about IELTS, seem to be one of the toughest tasks. With TOEFL, life is here quite different. And that is, by the way, something that completely explains my first notion about TOEFL and IELTS, telling you that they are strategic and academic type exams. TOEFL, as nothing else, requires a very thorough study of format, and more so with speaking. Because if you remember which particular question you are facing right now at the moment, the structure of taking notes and making your answer, well, okay, maybe not perfect, but at least worthy of a good mark, comes straight away. because speaking tasks at TOEFL fall into several very easily distinguishable categories. Point number one, there are, if you remember something beautiful about TOEFL, there are independent tasks. So when you are asked to speak and nothing else, you are given a question and then nothing else is required, no extra input, no extra material. That is called independent. Usually you are going to have them first in the course of speaking. And those questions, questions 1 and 2, they may not necessarily be the first and the second. They may be actually the second and the first, or, well, the first, second, and third, but they fall into two general categories. They either ask you about some personal experience, or they ask you about some choice, some preferences. As far as personal experiences are concerned, it can be anything. It can fall under any of categories of your favorite, best, the most interesting, influential, exciting, fascinating, marvelous, powerful, beneficial, whatever. Description of something. Doesn't it remind you of anything we have already discussed? Agreeing or disagreeing with some point made. For example, it is believed that best writers base their books on their personal experience. Do you agree or disagree? Or, for example, it is believed that children grow better as they grow in the families. And then, as a result, do you agree or disagree? So, Natalia, hello. Uh-huh. Okay. FC, in which way? Do you remember something that is about your favorite, something best, something most interesting, or which part of FC? I'm not sure it reminds me of FC. I suppose it may also be something else. Written essays. Uh-huh. Okay, so and you mean something like written essays at which exam? Mm-hmm. Aha, with FCE, the third part, by the way. Mm-hmm. Or IELTS, the second part. Okay, and maybe sounds like Russian ЕГЭ. Okay, maybe to a certain extent, opinion essays written. So the thing is that generally IELTS speaking really falls more into the category of structuring it like an essay. You have to speak in pretty much the same way you would be delivering your essay. That is why it reminded you of that. At the same time, to some extent, it does remind you of third part of FCE when you have some questions like that. But for one thing, TOEFL first question part is very practical. So it's never going to be about anything abstract. It is always about something that comes from your everyday life, something that is around you. In this respect, it reminds of task 2 IELTS. When you have to be talking about something that you know, that is close to your experience. However, if at IELTS you are generally given 4 questions which you cannot ignore, at TOEFL, what is difficult for the students who are not aware of the format, they sincerely think that it's just kind of a question which they are free to answer any way they would like. No way. TOEFL speaking answers must be structured. By the way, in this way, they do remind FCE written part. It's like when you see that you are supposed to write an article, you almost instantly have to remember the structure. The same happens with TOEFL, that's why you have to know beforehand. And general structure for those two goes like that. So it's actually easy, you've got it there, like your opinion or choice with opinion or choice, and then reason 1, example 1. Reason 2, example 2. No conclusion. That's it. Yes, it's very strict in structure, and generally, since it's got this structure, while we are preparing our students, we are in many ways faced with 3 main problems. So problem number 1 is knowing the structure, knowing what it should sound like. In TOEFL reality, there has to be one answer straight away giving you, one sentence straight away giving you the answer to the question. Then there kind of must be a phrase. So it's not a matter of choice like at FCE or IELTS. It's a must. For example, if you have a look at example of the question, if you were going to visit a friend or family member out of town, would you prefer to stay at a hotel or their home? My choice would be to stay at a hotel for 2 reasons. It's not like for several reasons, it's not for some reasons, it's always for 2 reasons. So with TOEFL, you have to structure it in a very precise way. And then you go. My first reason is, for example, another reason is, and once it happened like that. So that's the first thing that we have to remember. TOEFL speaking has got templates. And there is no choice out of it. Everybody is supposed to know what is expected and follow the guidelines. That's it. No variations on the structure. However, at the same time, it's easy. Then it's actually easy to plan. So that was the first thing. The second thing is that our students cannot come up with the right content. TOEFL really accounts for content. TOEFL really cares that you do not generalize whatever you have to say. You have to give actually very specific examples to support your point of view. And that is very different from many exams. Mm-hmm. Only your choice. You choose one thing and you go with your choice. We will listen to some samples. Some of them are going to be given from the book, and definitely uh, you will actually see the comment on the video like too perfect to be genuine. So the second point is that our students have to um, come up with something their own experience related in both of the tasks. So it will not do to say that I prefer I prefer hotels as they are comfortable, and then mumble something because generally hotels depend on their guests for their income, and that is why they are trying to do their best to make sure that the visitors to the hotel are absolutely happy with everything. From TOEFL point of view, that's a non-answer. You really have to remember the time when you stayed in a hotel and you were happy with it, and explain which facilities or which moments at this place made you comfortable. It's absolutely fine to say my first reason is that hotels are much more comfortable than anybody's homes. I remember staying a couple of years, let's say, in a hotel in Tver, where we had an amazing room with a view over the city center. Breakfast and lunch were served in our room at our request, and the receptionist helped us a lot with finding the right sites to walk around in an unfamiliar city. Also, I should mention that the hotel had several facilities, so we didn't have to go very far if we had to have some fun, to enjoy ourselves, and so on. Mm-hmm, exactly. And here comes the second one of the biggest problems of generally any student who is taking IELTS. And what if I have never experienced that? Bluff your way through it. In which way TOEFL is really like very much related in well, as all structure-based exams, it is very much it has many things in common with Russian national exam. Okay, it's great if you have got the truth to tell. If you haven't got such an experience, make it up. Anyway, mm-hmm, anyway, it has to be a specific example. That's it. TOEFL wants you to give natural specific examples. What is good about TOEFL, however, in this respect, is that it rarely, it very rarely will have questions which are totally unrelated to a student's, to a 16, 17, 18-year-old student's life. It may be connected with traveling and holidays. It may be connected with academic life. It may be connected with some personal choices. At the same time, what may be a stumbling block for our students, Russian students, is that the experience which would be absolutely common for most of their peers in America or in big cities may not be that common for them. Because there may be a case then that you ask an 18-year-old, if you go to or if you are going to celebrate some event, which is better? Go to a restaurant or, for example, ask catering to serve a meal in your home? I'm pretty much sure that not so many of us have ever had catering serving a meal in our home. And well, though there is going to be an increasing number of people, for example, familiar with takeaway, it may not be such a widespread idea to be able to talk about that, giving you personal and specific examples. Bluff your way through. And at the same time, TOEFL, just as with Russian national exam, as we were talking about essay, all TOEFL graders, raters, and preparation centers recommendation is choose the option which you have reasons and examples for. Kind of like make the choice which you can support. And it doesn't really matter which choice is your genuine one. So there is some sort of similarity. That's actually why I wanted to talk with you about TOEFL. And also, that is why some of TOEFL tasks are becoming increasingly popular with Olympiads in Russian reality. At the same time, there is another very specific problem. The point is that the notes for such questions have to be made in your head within 15 seconds. That is why I was also saying that TOEFL requires the longest time for preparing for it. I mean for the format. It is generally all American exams are about very strict and tight schedule and deadlines. TOEFL is no exception. You do have 15 seconds to prepare, you have 40 seconds to speak. And when they, again, it's unique in the respect that when they give you 40 seconds to speak, you have to occupy all these 40 seconds. Well, of course, not being kind of like exact to the second. However, everything has to be said within those 40 seconds without leaving much of a free time or sometimes even without leaving any time. It has to be trained. Students don't really know, our students don't very often time how long they're speaking. With TOEFL, they have to know how long it will take. That's why at initial stages, the main recommendation is, of course, making notes, coming up with some specific life-related examples. If it's not your own example, You are free to choose example from anybody else's life. Mm, the only thing that TOEFL doesn't advise is taking examples from films, series, and so on. If you have seen it on TV, kind of own it for the time of the exam. Make it your own. That's it. As if you have lived through it. Sorry, that's the way. So usually you will have initially first 2 months writing notes with students for everything. Uh, Down there I have got the templates for the notes. Like in the first line you will have your choice or the name of the experience and then the first reason and immediately very specific example which will be understandable for you. The second reason, the second specific example. For the first 2 months, note making and discussing the notes will be taking up to 10 minutes from my own experience, sometimes even longer. Then the next couple of months, the notes making notes for this question has to be contracted to 1 minute. And then you are going to have at least, hopefully, you're going to have at least 2 more months, like really practicing coming up with these ideas, ideally in shorthand. And TOEFL examiners, TOEFL preparation centers are particularly talking and insisting on using all sorts of contractions, symbols, and so on and so forth to facilitate the process of thinking and making notes. And then during the exam, you generally have to make notes more or less in your head. And however, speaking and putting everything together in 40 seconds will really have to come from the first attempt at speaking task. With a timer, with a sand clock, with whichever way you are going to be choosing for the first third of the course, and then for the second and the final parts of the course, ideally if you have it on the screen of your phone or on the screen of your computer, because that is exactly what the student is going to be looking at during his preparation time and his answer. So that is since it is so contracted and packed in time, I almost can feel how much you are enjoying it. The student is generally, by the examiners, given 6-10 seconds for pronouncing his or her opinion and the standard phrase like "I believe so" for 2 main reasons, or "there are 2 main reasons why I believe it," or "there are 2 main reasons which support my opinion." So your opinion plus "there are 2 main reasons." And then the next 30 seconds are equally divided between those. And that's an amazing thing that you will have to be working on if you are preparing your students for TOEFL. So how do you like it? How do you feel about such strict deadlines? Great? Tricky? Which problems do you envisage almost immediately? Awful, okay. Dina, so you are summing it up, right? Okay, very tricky. Uh, Challenging, thought-provoking though. Yes, it is. However, if you have a look at generally most American written, drafted, or published experience, whatever, curriculums, techniques, and so on, it's all about time management. It's like in every first line. And they sincerely time everything. If you have a look at life of, for example, Elon Musk, he is either famous or notorious for his time management technique, because in his planner, you like really the whole waking day is broken down into 5-minute periods. So if he's got a meeting with someone, it's 5 minutes. That is why it's like 1, 2, 3, that's it. Decision made. A very fast-paced life, and oh yes, absolutely. There is no consideration for psychotypes. No. Extremely fast-paced life and like meaningful to a second. It's part of culture right now, and I guess they generally don't really see many other ways of doing things. At the same time, it does have a financial grounding because a grader who will be listening to all of that is paid based on an hourly rate, and that's why they really have to go through a pack of things within a predictable amount of time. Time is money. Oh, well, yes, it is. It is exhausting. It is tiring. However, relaxation and some other things are also timed. So, like 20 minutes of that will give you energy for 10 hours of that. And those are the rules of the exam. So let's have a look or let's have a listen actually, what it looks like and what it sounds like in, shall I say, in a great way. Mm, mm-hmm. In a kind of like a sample answer. California, they were never in a hurry and they were always late. Oh, yes, of course. However, that's California. They have two states which are generally mocked for their laziness, and they are Californians and Floridas. New York is different. Boston is different. Sunshine States, however, yes, absolutely. Reality may be different from something that they want to work on. At the same time, exams, tasks, tests, mm, sorry, and students will have to get through that. So, okay, let me show you what I actually wanted. Uh-huh. Just a second, just a second. Mm-hmm. Mm, cannot see that. Cannot see it in my materials somehow. Then I guess we are going to have a look at this one. We are going to have a look at this one. However, we will have to skip quite a lot because I decided to give you two genuine tests, like complete ones, because actually speaking lasts for 20 minutes in TOEFL reality. And everything is like strictly timed. You will have 6 tasks within those 20 minutes, 5 to 6. So, uh, oh, that is a complete video of one of the tasks, like the whole TOEFL speaking section. And I would like you to go to, just a second, let me tell you the timing.
Dress and several attendants accompanied.
Yes, the timing of the question is going to be, so 2 minutes 15 seconds. That is when the question is asked. 45 seconds to speak. Yes. And the question is here, explain how birthdays are celebrated in your country. Use specific examples and details in your explanation. Can you see the question? Can you open the video? It can be opened in another tab. Dear colleagues, can you open it? Yes, great, okay. Right, wonderful. So our first question seems to be absolutely easy, right? Explain how birthdays are celebrated in your country. Use specific examples and details in your explanation. So we're talking about personal experience. We are looking for some opinion or topic sentence, and we are having a look at some details. In this way, it's not going to be reason, it's going to be details. And the answer is at the point of 21 minute 15 seconds. Please listen to it. 21 minute 15 seconds.
Question 1.
Okay. And now I've got a question. What has the student done with the first sentence? Because generally, what is the main difficulty with such broad topics like how do you celebrate birthdays in your country? Or what type of book do you prefer? Or what kind of holidays do you prefer? They may lead you to very general first sentences. What has she done? Absolutely. Exactly. So if you are given preferences or a choice, right? Usually you are given a choice out of 2 or 3 options. You will be able to specify by choosing one of the options. she doesn't have the benefit of that. She has to give some sort of a bigger description, right? And she manages to get around that by specifying. So it's not just birthdays, it's some specific birthday. When a girl is 15 years old. So she's getting specific. And then she's covering two main points about this celebration. What are they? Do you see the clear structure there? She does mention 2 points. They are not evenly distributed in her speaking. At the same time, do you see them? Okay, what does she start with? Or what does she start her description with? So the first one she specifies, so I'm not going to talk about all the birthdays. I'm going to be talking only the 15th birthday of a girl. And what does she do then? So this is celebrated with a church service. The girl wears a white dress, kind of like a wedding dress, and several attendants accompany her to the altar where the priest talks with her about becoming an adult woman. After the service, the whole family celebrates with friends, and there is music and dancing and food. Traditionally, only relatives and close friends are invited to the church service, but many more people attend the party afterwards. Oh, Dina, it is 22 minutes 15 seconds. Mhm. The answer is on 22 minutes 15 seconds. Okay, we will have a look at another video which will be easier to manage. 22 минуты 15 секунд, там как раз ответ, пример ответа. Нам пришлось прыгать. Okay. Mhm. Okay. I hope that everybody has heard the answer right now. My question. So the first part is about, dear colleagues, if we look at the notes, so her notes would look like, number one, birthday 15-year-old girl. Her second note will look like, here, dress, music, guests. Of what? Their specific details of what? Yes, dress, music, guests like relatives or friends, their specific details to which idea? What is she actually describing? It's not about birthday. It's about okay, it is about birthday, but actually it's about so church service. Yes, so church service. A moment. Так, okay, one more time. So, in my country, birthdays are celebrated every year, but the most important birthday for a young girl is their quinceanera, the birthday when she's 15. She's talking about that and she's specifying. This is celebrated with a church service. Если бы вы делили это на абзацы, это было бы первое предложение второго абзаца. И она конкретно это описывает. The girl wears a white dress, kind of like a wedding dress, and several attendants accompany her to the altar where the priest talks with her about becoming an adult woman. After the service, the whole family celebrates with friends, and there is music and dancing and food. Traditionally, only relatives and close friends are invited to the church service, but many more people attend the party afterwards, so kind of like service and celebration. And what's the second part? And what's the second part? Yeah, exactly. So the first one sums up the church procedure and what goes after that, and the second part is about what? It's kind of tiny, however, it's sufficient. How would you sum it up? Traditionally, only in the old days, the ceremony presented the girl to society for marriage proposals, but now she's considered the appropriate age to begin dating. It's actually the meaning, right? Meaning of this particular ceremony and what it meant before that and what it means now. So she's giving again very specific details. In fact, all the time, while you are talking about personal experiences, the ideal way to structure that is going to be answering how and then why. How something was done and why. Be specific, name it, and then explain how it happened and why it happened for this reason. In this way, you will always have two things to be talking about. Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. I agree that it's kind of not very convenient to be jumping from one piece to another piece. That's why we have got the second video. Все, оно появилось. And let's listen to the first answer, to the first question and the first answer. And once again, can you please break it into the structure? Mhm. The pictures which the video maker used were not perfect. However, the samples which accompany that are fine, just exactly what we need. So ready, steady, let's go. Once again, we are opening that in the new tab. It's easier. Mhm. Mhm. Mm-hmm. At 1.45. Aha, Olga, yes. Because she's been with the first one about birthdays, yes, because she's asked not about her personal experience. Okay, personal doesn't mean to be just like your and nobody else's. Uh, about your country, it's personal experience. It's absolutely fine. And this one was about her class, the best class she remembers. That's her personal experience. Hmm. Did you understand the breakdown of the talk? How did she do that? What's the structure? The difference between personal experience and general wording would be, for example, like that. The class which I remember best is my chemistry class. Lots of people like chemistry because it is going to be useful in their future life. That is general. And I personally loved chemistry because I was going to major in chemistry at university. Many other students in my class, mm-hmm, yeah, yeah. And however, it's absolutely fine. Name one reason plus explanation, third reason explanation, uh, result. So she even managed to fit in with that one. Mm-hmm. Yes, Olga, I know what you mean. So, despite lots of similarities with Russian exam, there is a world of differences. And good point is, TOEFL, it's not just that TOEFL can be prepared for, it has to be prepared for. And answers have to be, many of them have to be learned. Like I mean it. Generally, students who have difficulties preparing for TOEFL or getting ready with their own personal answers, um, from their own experience or coming up with reason, explanation, or reason, example, they spend the first part of the preparation course learning by heart the models. The second part of preparation course generally replacing mm, re, the parts which can be replaced in the models by pronouns like me, my class, in my experience, from my point of view, changing places and other things. And the third part of the course, they generally spend trying to construct their own answers out of the phrases which they have already learned in the first two parts. TOEFL has nothing against it. At the same time, the point is, and that's another very specific point, that the questions to TOEFL, I mean general topics and general areas, are available at the beginning of each year, not specific questions. However, the areas in which the exam is going to be specializing this particular year, they are available at the beginning of each year, and all the preparation centers, they really look at them and they drill them with their students. many, many times. So there is no such a criteria at TOEFL that something is learned or something is, for example, kind of like taking from some sort of ready text. It's fine. However, if you are preparing the students who can do something on their own, they have to follow the structure, they have to come up with their own specific examples, and then it's going to be kind of a perfect world for everybody. What happens then? Fortunately or unfortunately, so the first two questions can go with something that you go for, yeah, kind of a pre-prepared topic, though you are not, you cannot be very specific in guessing what the question will be. The next ones are a bit more versatile. And then you have got question type 3, that's already integrated. And what you have to do here, you have to read an announcement. Usually it deals with some aspect of students' life, of campus life, some changes, some new introductions, or vice versa, cancellations, or new orders, whatever, new regulations, and then discussion between two people. In this conversation, the likelihood of having a man and a woman are like 99%. The trick here is that usually you will have one person talking and the second one somehow trying to maintain the dialogue. And the question is going to be asking you to sum up the opinion of the person who usually talks most. So you will have man and woman talking, and you will have to explain the opinion of the man and sum up the reasons which he is using for his opinion. Predictably, can you guess how many reasons a person in the dialogue is going to be using? Two. Mm-hmm. Yes. And the person in the dialogue is going to support his reasons with examples. So generally, everything is like very clear and very easy to structure because you will have to, in your answer, sum up what the news is about. Two. That's TOEFL. Two. They're absolutely happy with everything going in pairs. Then explain the position of the person you are asked about because here you have to listen to who you are going to be answering for, whose ideas you are going to be telling. Then give a reason why they think the way they do, supported by an example. Give the reason, supported by another example. The most useful phrases here are, of course, related with the reported speech. Explains, complains, argues, claims, states, believes. However, not the reported speech as a structure, but reported speech as reported verbs. Denies, accepts, reporting the position of a person, explaining why we believe that or another or some other things. Let's have a look at both announcement. So I will open the announcements for you, and then I will open the samples to have a look how it actually goes like in real life. Once again, you are given time to read the announcement, then you are given time to listen to the conversation. Important point is you will not really see the announcement once again. So as soon as listening starts, reading text disappears. And if you remember at TOEFL, apart from only some specific listening questions, you listen only once. That is why the common structure for taking notes will be like that. Man, woman, opinion, reason. Example, reason, example. Generally, the students at TOEFL preparation centers are taught just to make such a table, to take some notes, to put down some keywords, and as a result, whatever the question is, whether it concentrates on man or woman, they are able to give their answer. So let's have a look how it goes. Here we've got it. The conversation samples are going to be in this video. Once again, it would be easier to open it in the new tab, so feel free to do so. And so off we go with the very first announcement about closure for the evening class. And my question will be, what are the reasons for an opinion and specific examples that the student is given here? So, ready, steady, let's go
Unit
for the
3,
first one.
Situational fit and explain.
Mhm. Yes, we have it in the announcement section. Okay, let's stop at 2 minutes 20 seconds before we listen to the sample. And predictably, we are asked about the man. Who talked more than the lady in our conversation? And my dear colleagues, what is his opinion? How does he feel about the closure for the evening class? How does he feel about that? He's against it. Right, okay. Absolutely. What is his reason? What's his first reason? They talked a lot, right? Okay, so he he says that in small groups, less student, more knowledge. Exactly. Yes, in small classes, student go in depth. Small group is better. In-depth study. Yes, he's against, he's negative about that. Small groups study in depth. What's the example? To support his reason. He actually says something specific as well. They study better, they study in depth because, and that was difficult to catch, by the way. Small groups are more effective, yes, because they study in depth, and during lectures, professors don't very often don't have time to cover all the material. Here they do have the time. They have more time for covering all the material. Okay, what is his second reason? Why small study groups and why evening classes were actually better? He gave another great reason, really. The girl here was kind of arguing with him. Who leads the classes? Enough time to go through everything, absolutely. His second reason was that the classes are taught, exactly, the classes are taught by a TA. By TAs. And he gave actually very specific examples what makes them a better choice for students. Their students, in fact, in their upper years, students, teacher assistant. Teacher assistant. Right, they're passionate about that, so they're very motivated. They're passionate about their subject. They're much more motivated than professors who have been doing their subject for something like 20 years. He actually dragged that example there. Mm-hmm. And what is more, another specific example there, they understand students better. They understand the needs of students. Needs of students. Mm-hmm. So that is exactly what has to be here in the notes and what has to be put there after the text, after listening. Now I've got the question. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have got the same experience as the students they are talking to, and that is why actually that's great. That works for students. I've got a question. What was difficult? I agree, by the way, that one of the most difficult points, especially for Russian students, is the difference between realities. Like some academic terminology, like TAs, assignments. Well, here, not that many. However, here you've got faculty members and so on and so forth, right? So they have to, TOEFL to a certain extent familiarizes students with what the future is holding for them in terms of American university reality. And what else was the problem? From my experience, it's both a problem with the announcement and with the conversation itself. Uh-huh. Okay. Not just the speed, or actually the speed combined with the amount of information. Yes. Oh, pronunciation, yes, it is. It's American, it's just real life conversation. And, and Olga, have you noticed that both in the announcement and in the conversation, you have too many excessive details? Like if I have a look at the announcement, frankly speaking, the topic of it is clear from the beginning, from the title. And if I do use my 45 seconds reading it, with a decrease of students interested in the evening class, the university decided to discontinue it. Okay, that's it. Do I actually need information that it has declined for the past few years? Many students prefer to study with an experienced faculty member. Registered for the required to change their schedule. Refunds will be applicable who cannot meet their schedule. I don't need all of that information. However, at the same time, if you look at the announcement very attentively, very carefully, you will actually see that the announcement echoes, or actually the conversation is going to echo the same points mentioned by the announcement. So more or less, if you practice long enough, you can already make your notes and structure your answer after you have read the announcement. Because after those 45 seconds, it's clear that the number of students declined, and the second question is not experienced faculty members. That's it. You already have got those points. And the conversation is just going to add to it. Why somebody thinks that declined number of students is positive or negative idea, and why somebody thinks that less experienced faculty members are good or bad. It's like 100% like this, and it helps you to sieve through the information which is going to be in the conversation as well. At TOEFL, it's one of survival hints. Okay, let's listen to the example. Again, it's going to be kind of a good one, a bit artificial one. And right now, my dear colleagues, I would like you to listen carefully and try. Oh, yes, it requires a lot of preparation and experience. But all the TOEFL is about that. That's why the shortest TOEFL preparation course has to be 6 months. And the student already has to be, well, at least middle upper intermediate. Like there is generally not much of success awaits those who are trying to take this challenge at lower levels or, for example, at within shorter period of time. And that's probably one of few exams that we have to be very careful with. It's a big problem with advanced students to make them follow models and drills. Agreed? TOEFL is all about that. Models and drills. And another problem is that unless they follow them, they're not going to have a good score. That's their choice. And at the same time, I hope that now you see what I meant by saying that reading and listening at TOEFL are, to a certain extent, much more unpredictable and problematic. With other exams, it's otherwise. It's speaking and writing. Speaking and writing at TOEFL are overstructured and have to be over-drilled. Okay, let's listen to sample. And I would like, it's a good one. So, and I would like your opinion. What makes it a good sample apart from following the structure? Ready? Steady? Let's go. So it's 2 minutes, 20 seconds.
Sample answer.
The man wants the university to keep
It's 3 minutes, 6 seconds. So was there anything that you liked about it? What has this student done apart from structuring that in a good way, which is obvious? Definitely nothing extra, like one sentence of introducing the topic, then 3 sentences of giving reason and supporting it. Very precise. Yeah, вообще ничего лишнего. Nothing extra. Okay, anything else? What about vocabulary? What about grammar? Because there is another catch that awaits anyone, either lower level or higher level students with this task. What happened there? Rather wide range, okay. Um, Okay, let me paraphrase that. To which extent does our student in the sample answer uses the vocabulary and structures suggested by the task? Have you noticed that? Did he use TAs? Did he use in-depth? Mm-hmm. Natalia, it is here, 2 minutes 20 seconds. And then you will have the answer. Sorry. Угу. Да, TOEFL требует от нас быстрого переключения. So what was good about this answer? Nothing extra. Mm-hmm. Echoed. Vocabulary plus paraphrase. Mm-hmm. And, yeah. Mm-hmm. By the way, Ekaterina, you are absolutely right. Reporting with present tenses, and you can do that. Okay, Larissa. So the conversation example is here in this video. It's opened right now to you, and it is on 2 minutes 20 seconds. Мы слишком быстро, да. And the student has done one more thing. So it's kind of difficult to get it. However, there is all the time the link to the opposing opinion. I hope you have noticed that. Because so he doesn't like the idea of closing the evening class. I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact wording. But then there is that he's saying that in the small groups it's even better. Professors don't have time to cover everything while. So he's all the time trying to make the links with opposing ideas and kind of rebut them. So links are perfect. However, not with within his own sentences and ideas. They are more contrast links. That is exactly what this task requires. Okay, we are going further. Угу. Господа, переключаю вас на начальный наш документ. Мы смотрим дальше. Type 5. Question type 5 of integrated once again deals with the conversation between the students in problem in academic environment. It doesn't have to be just students. It can be professor and students. It can be professor and TA. And generally, they're going to be talking once again about problem and solution. So those are conversation things. Problem plus solution. So one of them is going to tell you that I feel unhappy about the way my studies go. I cannot do that. The other person would be, as you can easily imagine, suggesting two solutions and explaining why they are suitable. And while you are taking notes, it's going to look pretty much like that. However, this little task has a catch because at the end of stating the problem, summing up the solutions, you will have to make your choice and give a reason for that. Again, the structure is known from the very beginning. The structure is known from the moment you are actually asked the question. And if the student just follows the structure, remembering that all the time there are going to be 2 points, 2 reasons, 2 examples, he or she has done a good job. So that was about conversation integrated tasks. When you listen to a conversation, man and woman talking, and then you have to report it in some way, either making your own choice with that or not making your own choice. If you have a mix up between announcements and problems and solutions, one of the main mistakes of students is that in the announcements they give their own opinion. Like, they try to follow problem and solution structure. They don't just sum up the dialogue, they add their own opinion. You cannot do it here. That is going to be a big mistake. You are not asked about it. Here you are going to be asked about that, here no. And then some points are deducted. And there are, however, 2 more types of integrated speaking questions, which are dealing not so much with the conversations and then summing up. They are generally dealing with the lectures. So, or shall I actually do it like that? So, conversation and lectures. If here the problem dealt generally with speed and with pronunciation, excessive number of details, which you have to boil down to just 2 points, here, as you can easily envisage, as you can easily foretell and foresee, the problems are a bit different. Which ones do you think are going to be the main problems here? What do you think is going to happen? So, if here our student was asked to read an extract of the text, listen to the conversation, then report on it, here you are going to have to read an extract from a text and listen to the related lecture and then report on it. Okay, Olga, I agree with you. Usual problems with understanding instructions and following them. Exactly. With TOEFL, it's vital that our student knows exactly which type of question it is and follows the set of instructions and the set of structure to this particular type of question. Nothing else. No additions from yourself. Just do what you are asked to do. With TOEFL, yes, it's a huge problem. So, while we were listening to conversations, the colloquial English may be problematic, right? like some reactions. Um, Too much information can be problematic. And when you're listening to a lecture, which problem once again you can foresee? Okay, let me show you then something. Because with lectures there are generally, again, two types. I don't know why TOEFL loves uh, classifying everything in two. However, with lectures there are also two types of tasks. One is concept example, and that is going to be the one that we will concentrate our attention on right now. Oh, it's not just academic vocabulary. You'll see. You'll see it just in a second. So, yes, that's going to be this one. Mhm. People, are you following me right now? And do you see a little video with a lovely lady standing her back to us and class writing something? Terminology. Мгм. Okay, right. Все, то есть все у нас на правильном видео. Мгм. Okay, let's listen to that before the sample. Останавливаемся перед примером. Okay? So, ready? Steady? Let's go. Let's open it in the new tab and go for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's stop at 3 minutes 13 seconds. And now I've got a question. What have you noticed about the structure of reading passage and the structure of lecture? How is that organized? Have you followed the structure? And yes, my and another question was, which difficulties do you foresee in this task? Um, mhm, okay. I bet that not so many people in this class have ever considered or have ever been really interested in echoic memory. However, of course, it's one of the hindrances that at TOEFL you are going to encounter completely unfamiliar material. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and I see. Mm-hmm. Um, However, as TOEFL claims, they do not go over the first year of university. That is why the information is generally accessible to people who are going to be, if they pass TOEFL successfully, the first year students of university. Mhm. So, my dear colleagues, if you unroll the video to the point mhm, to the point of the text first. The text gives you a definition and how many main characteristics. Yes, the text goes with definition, the lecture goes with the example. So you've got the definition, the notion, how many characteristics? Two. Exactly. As usual, two. And as she gives the example, how many connections does she make? Again, two. And they are going to be once again the same as given in the text. That it is very short-lived one and that it is very accurate. And the example is about remembering telephone numbers. So generally, the structure of the task is going to be like that. You're going to have concept or process broken down into two subcategories or two characteristics. And then there is going to be an example linked to those two characteristics. And that is exactly what you have to sum up in your speaking. What you have, so that is why when we are talking about new information, new concepts, academic vocabulary, the point is that to a certain extent it can be ignored. Do you understand what I mean? Each time when you are talking about TOEFL topics, TOEFL texts, TOEFL listenings. What you have to teach your students to do is generally do it like that. What's that? The first part about what's that. The second part about what's that. And the example connected with what's that in those two groups. That's it. So students have to really give a name to this one, give a name to that one. They have to catch what it's called. Yes, this one they have to do. And then they have to catch 2 points. Yes. Generally, it's like that. All the time. 2 main points, 2 main ideas, 2 main reasons. Example to the first one, example to the second one. TOEFL is structured that way. That's what makes, as soon as you get these concepts, the grasp of this concept, your life is becoming extremely easy. Both during the preparation of the exam and at the exam itself. However, it's a bit problematic to get this concept. And kind of like brush aside all the details. Yes. Point one, point two. Point one, point two. That's connected with the first point. That's connected with the second point. So let's listen to the sample answer and let's see what the person actually has to do here. How it is all connected, how it is all organized then and structured in an answer. Because the thing is that despite the exact wording of the task here, you have to know the type. I'm giving a definition or I'm giving the explanation of a process and the example how it happens. The example is going to be connected by 2 categories. That's it. То есть у нас всегда такой двурукий человечек. С правой стороны, с левой стороны. И опять с правой, с левой. Очень сильно помогает. So, let's listen to the sample. It is actually 3 minutes 13 seconds. Вот там, где мы остановились, 3 минуты 13 секунд. Давайте послушаем, как он explains how the example illustrates the features of echoic memory. Ready? Steady? Let's go. So, preparation 30 seconds. And that is exactly what your student is going to see on the screen while he or she is going through TOEFL exam. Some sort of fading away time. Almost philosophical concept of that. Speak now. And then you've got the real sample. 450 to be exact. Mhm. Okay? Did you get through that? Please put a plus in the chat if you have. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. So the structure is easy. Mm-hmm. A pretty predictable structure, right? Once again, you have a kind of like a topic sentence that doesn't really mean lots of things. So use the example to support two features. Помните, как у нас было? I believe it for two reasons. So the example is used to support two main characteristics. And then the first characteristic, you name it, right? You explain it. And what happens then? So this answer is a bit specific. So what happens in the first one? So the professor says, you explain it by the echoic memory, and then, what do you do then? You connect it with reading. You see that link? So you kind of like wrap it up. The professor in listening says, it is explained by, and it also proved by reading material, by the text. And here is the second. And connect. Why I'm actually concentrating to a certain extent on this structure. This is going to be the same structure which students will need for integrated writing, which we will discuss after the break. Because you have pretty much the same type of task. You have some reading input, some listening input, and you have to link them. With the lecture, you will have to find common features in them. And they're going to kind of echo each other. So concept is broken into two characteristics. Example is linked to those two characteristics. And you do the opposite. You start with an example, explain the link, say that it's the same in reading. The second link, explain, it's the same in reading. With writing, the concepts or points are going to contradict each other. However, the structure stays the same. Okay, and the final type, again dealing with lecture. Usually it is a summary question. So like here you have text and lecture, here you have only text and conversation, here you have only conversation, here you have text and conversation and lecture, and here you will have only lecture. Once again, it's kind of really easy because you are going to have a piece, a 90-second piece of a lecture giving you the topic and two subtopics, or for example, two steps of a process. and you have to follow pretty much the same structure, summarizing it. In the lecture, the professor mentions, or the professor explains, the professor classifies, then you name the concept. The first category is, the first step is, the example of it is, the second category, the second example of it is. And generally, that's it. So it's pretty much like a little essay. However, the conclusion is required only here in problem and solution. Do you remember at IELTS, problem and solution was kind of different in structure as well, because you had to choose something. So here it's the same. Generally, yes, I completely agree with you. It makes our students think in the way like one reason is, the second reason is. One another. And you may be, in fact, kind of surprised. However, if you look through many texts in English, I mean like real articles and even fiction texts, in terms of structures, in terms of points for discussion, you generally will see that this binary kind of thinking to a certain extent is natural for many English structures, even in terms of grammar. What I mean, parallel structures, pair linkers, even two-part sentences in terms of if, when one part is dependent on the other part. Some structures as 1 minute, da 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 da, next. One reason, da 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 da, another. Or the other, meaning that you are going to have only two of them. So to a certain extent, it kind of takes the features of language to extreme. And you've got it summed up. At the same time, if you are reading British texts, they also have a lot of samples of three-part structures. Not very typical for American English. So I don't mean to be bad. However, probably it looks a bit too much to boil down. Yes, it's part and parcel of the language itself. And that is why it's reflected in many other areas. So, of course, I am going to give you the criteria. Here they are. How students get better results. Oh, it's writing. Speaking is here. You've got that in your materials as well. And what seems to be exceptionally, and I mean it, exceptionally important for TOEFL is, and what makes a huge difference between the benchmark. You remember that with speaking you have 30 points as for all other parts. So what makes the difference between intermediate and high-level students is delivery and some very subtle factors such as natural pauses and smoothness. Almost impossible to get what it is. However, if your student is kind of like jerky, not evenly paced, making some unjustified pauses, or nervous to the extent that his or her speech becomes difficult to decipher. That is something that prevents the smooth flow of speech. Delivery is important. Another point which TOEFL preparation centers are talking about, and you may argue with that. However, they are talking about energy in the delivery. So what they mean is not being kind of all that level and quiet and relaxed while you are talking, but like really show that you are mm, sending an impulse. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So kind of, yes, you are enthusiastic. You are trying to do your best. You mean that. You may sometimes come across very contradictory and even arguable remarks on their net, and however they do work for TOEFL. They recommend, if you've got the microphone, reach for the microphone or put the microphone closer to your mouth, sounding and remembering some very optimistic moments and speaking with this energy, as if you see a crowd of people in front of you whom you are trying to persuade that this is exactly the way it should be, even if you are summarizing the lectures, which may sound kind of strange. However, that's exactly the way they really want you to deliver. They want you to sound confident. They want you to sound natural, evenly paced, without lots of hesitations, as if you have already prepared that mini speech for presidential campaign. So that is one of the requirements and one of the criteria which can move you from good, however humble, 24 to 26 or 27. More like to show that you have this energy, you have the push, you have this some assertiveness and determination. You know what you are doing, and you are able to talk to a crowd in a confident manner. Kind of strange sounding as it is, it's not a written criteria, but it goes. It goes to take students higher. Language use, vocabulary range, grammar complexity, and one more criteria which they do pay attention to. It is grammar strength. What they mean? A TOEFL grader will always look for adverbs, adjectives, emphasis, inversion, and grammar strength in terms of structures, not so much descriptive ones, but adding to the point. That is something that makes a perfect answer. What I really liked about that class, and one more thing that makes grammar strength at TOEFL, not at IELTS, and not so much at FCE, if you remember the criteria, is precision. When you have time, please re-listen to some of the samples, especially those taken from the book. They do not go for complex sentences, especially in topic sentences. Topic sentences are simple. Small groups are more effective. That's it. That's a topic sentence. That's enough. That's a strong one. You know what I mean. So you don't really have to plan around about. You have to just get to the point, straight to the point, and that's what TOEFL examiners are looking at, and that's what they're looking for. With all the materials, okay, we'll ask for that. Yeah, because I don't think that we have it right now. And another point is topic development. So you have to be absolutely clear what you're talking about. Fill the time. Don't think that you have said enough. Give specific examples. Go for that. And yes, you have to fill the time with some specific, very clear things. Well, I do suggest us taking a 10-minute break right now, and at 6:15 Moscow time, we will return to have a look at essays and writing tasks. I know you already have a huge volume of TOEFL essays. When we started talking about structures in writing, they came as natural choice, which teaches our students to deal with structure, to be effective at structuring their essays. And we will, in 10 minutes, discuss some other important aspects of TOEFL writing. So, а за это время, да, я тоже попрошу модератора нам все-все-все материалы собрать в архив, потому что у нас на этот раз много всего и много видео, по которым, правда, очень хорошо и эффективно слушать. Господа, вот в основном документе, который у вас сейчас на экране, там внизу две ссылки на, пожалуй, может быть, не самый популярный канал по подготовке к TOEFL, но, пожалуй, самый разумный по рекомендациям и по... Там не все видео, конечно, шикарные, но вот те два, которыми я очень хотела с вами поделиться, они здесь, ссылки на них здесь даны. А так мы с вами увидимся в 18:15 и посмотрим достаточно бегло на writing, так как на него мы уже смотрели. В принципе, это будет... Там неожиданностей нет. Okay. So, see you in several minutes. Oh well. So, okay, so I'm here, right, and let's have a look. Yes. In Russian reality, you are not allowed to make any notes during the exam. By the way, at TOEFL reality as well. So here you have got all the materials which are from the class today. And here you've got all the links to the videos. Here they are. I really recommend you to have a look at them after the class. And by the way, I've got a question. I know that before we go to writing, I know that probably we are not going to be preparing in our professional life many students to TOEFL. The exam, our relationship with America are not getting, sorry, unfortunately or fortunately, depends on the point of view, any better. We are right now not very much in the condition of sending thousands of Russian students and Russian speakers to study abroad. As far as TOEFL categories, the exam, you remember that they've got the exam testing language abilities in general is concerned. We are very likely to see the decline in some language programs accepting Russian speaking students and requiring this exam. IELTS seems to be on the rise, together with independent college and university testing systems, because it also has got commercial side of things, and IELTS gained so much popularity that right now it is raising some objections from universities. They are not very happy with IELTS examination centers to be gaining all their profits from testing international students. Then, after we have looked at that, how do you feel, or how would be interesting for you to have a look and use TOEFL materials? For which purposes? How do you see all these strategies, question types, task types can be used in your professional life? Because we more or less found good and proper use for writing. What about the rest of it? What do you think it can be good for? Which problems can they help you to solve if you are talking about some other tasks that our students may have? Independent listening is good for preparing for Russian national exam writing. Yes, by the way, it is. Both independent and integrated. Independent based on lectures. For speaking, yes, true. And for writing, speaking in format, by the way, right? Speaking in very strict format. All right, definitely. Мгм. Для всерос великолепно integrated tasks because they are using them right now. And summary tasks. Independent speaking like 1.2, yes, no. Okay. For structuring your students just in general. Um, TOEFL is exceptionally good for strong students who have lots of ideas, however, tend to. Well, I really like the Russian metaphor, which one of my professors used at university. It's kind of like растекаться мыслью по древу. Because students may have ideas, but they are not very precise. They are not preparing to saying what they want to say. Now you feel like using listening seems very useful for developing reasoning. hmm So integrated listening and speaking. Stress training. Oh yes, TOEFL is a good one for that, especially with the timer ticking on the screen. And what else I found it very useful for if you have students in business training. Because if you are talking about business English, they have to be precise. They have to give their reasons very concisely. However, even in business books, you don't have much of training for that. I wouldn't really give them lectures, but I would give them integrated listening, which is connected with conversations, such as problem solving or reaction to announcement. Because there you have to separate 2 points and then give them back, like in, you remember, 60 seconds. And you are not going to have more than that. You have to be very concise and manage to say everything that you need to say. Good for teaching academic English and academic reality in general. Because as I have already mentioned, it does have kind of an insight into structure of colleges, of students' life, what you have to be thinking about, what you have to be considering. Mm-hmm. Yes, to develop their self-management skills. Absolutely, to organize yourself. By the way, Yelena, that's good. How to make notes. How to make notes under time pressure. How to make notes in the way that you can read them after that. In fact, also talking about finding the way to shorthand. I don't mean really like shorthand, but they will have to use some symbols, some applicable and commonly used symbols. Like this is for self, and this is for, well, so there are many of them. And that's for all the words with ment suffix and suffix tion. So kind of practice in that skill as well. TOEFL is good about that. In reading, of course, linkers. We talked about that. And as far as writing is concerned, I guess you may like it. I'm not banking on that. However, I would say that you may like it. So, once again, with writing, we have got two types. And just 50 minutes for that. You know what I am hinting at. Once again, that is stress management, self-management, time management, and you really have to organize yourself. Typing speed is important, and having at least some rate of it will come in handy to a student at TOEFL. So what happens there? If it is integrated, then once again, all three skills are, well, not all, three skills are interconnected. You read something, a miracle, usually it is going to have 3 points, however, sometimes 2. Then you listen to a part of a lecture. It is going to have either 2 or 3 points, depending on reading. and then you have to answer some question. The point is that all the time right now, it used to be different. Now TOEFL got a bit simpler as all the international exams, unfortunately, from my point of view. However, well, life is like a lecture, like listening material, is always going to be opposing or in some way confronting or unveiling some myths which are points or stereotypes or something like that, which are going to be featured in reading material. And your student generally has to follow one of three types of an essay. It can be argument style. So, reading is going to state something about a specific topic. For example, the same with memory, which is very accurate, lasting for very short period of time, and something else. So there are going to be three reasons to support the claim. And the lecture is going to be counteractive on those claims. However, the topic is still going to be the same. And then the task of a student is easy. In fact, what you generally do, you state the topic, you state that listening material challenges, contradicts, explains, gives opposing viewpoint to the points raised in reading material on these items, reasons, characteristics, and your essay is going to explore it further or explain it further. So generally, introduction is easy. Both reading and listening materials are devoted to this topic. Listening material opposes reading material on these points 1, 2, 3. In this article, I'm going to explain it in more detail. And then we actually come to the structure of your essay. In the second paragraph, since it is a 4-paragraph article usually, not 5, you go for the first 2 points, you have to somehow unite them, group them. Then for the remaining point, and then come to the conclusion. Very often, and I mean it, there isn't going to be a conclusion. That's one of the main differences with TOEFL, as you have already seen it. In speaking and in writing, I mean integrated, when you have to compare and just list the points, conclusion is not required just by the concept. You are going to introduce it, then give point 1, 2, 3, and stop at that. And then it makes your essay much more logical in terms of structure. What happens here? Reading text is available to the student throughout writing. So you don't really have to be very good at remembering reading. Why do you have to look through it before you listen? You have to understand the structure of it, as always. So generally, it's good for making notes because you have reading, listening, topic, point 1, 2, 3. So while you are reading the text, you have to understand which 3 points it raises. And then listen to the same points being opposed to in the lecture. You don't have to write them here, write them out while you are reading or looking through the text. The student really just has to grasp the idea, grasp the structure. It will help to make notes from the listening material and then link them together. Predictably, you will need all the time contrasting vocabulary, I mean linkers. By contrast, on the other hand, and all the time references to the text, reading material, reading input, extract, and audio material, lecture, listen material has to be made. So the professor claims, while the text establishes another point of view. And that happens all the time. So once again, the structure of paragraphs is clear. It just comes out of your notes. And if you are going to have some contradicting points, you will definitely have some additional information to support them. So it's going to be point 1, point, support. Support can come in explanation and in examples. Everything that was mentioned in audio will have to be put down in writing. So to a certain extent, it's kind of like изложение с заданной точки зрения. Something that our students, once again, don't really have much experience of. At the same time, it is a vital skill for university students when they have to go through all sort of reviews of articles, research materials, research findings, and so on and so forth. The closest structure in Russian is actually something like рецензия на статью или рецензия на книгу. However, we do not have the same standard. So, another type of the same essay. So, generally the same structure. However, your text is going to be explaining something. Like, what are the reasons for? And the lecture is going to give you opposite ideas about these reasons, or just undermining the weight of these reasons as causes to the situation. Both are possible. Structure still stays the same. However, with explanation style, you will have clearer support of contradicting points. Because if the lecturer is going to explain why one reason or the second reason is not right, he will give more clarification for that than examples. And then problem and solution style, because here you are going to have related to some bigger concept problems. And lecturer shows how each problem can be solved. Then the structure is a bit different. It's not so much about contradiction, it's more about adding information. However, the focus is different, the structure is pretty much the same. Because in the text, this problem is mentioned as the most important one. The professor in the lecture explains how it can be solved through this method. The second problem mentioned in connection with is that one which can be tackled, sorted out by. The thing is that you don't really have like set limit like with the rest of exams of words here. However, generally the first essay goes for 200-250 words. What TOEFL requires here is more connected with structure and effective inclusion of all the materials mentioned both in reading and in listening parts. We will have a look at the example. You will see what I mean. And one more point worth mentioning, since the structure is so predictable, once again, I'm very much afraid it has to be drilled into your student, and so that in 20 minutes, actually in 15 minutes, they are able to produce it. Because let's just scroll down the document and you have got there integrated writing example prompts. They have 3 minutes to read the passage and take notes. They have generally from 90 seconds to 2 minutes to listen to a piece of lecture. And then they have 20 minutes to develop their writing. The structures just really have to be known pretty much in advance, and then is going to be something like the template for each paragraph. The lecturer talks about first, that happens, second, that happens, third, that happens. And that's it. So students have to do it kind of automatically. Another point and another writing task, I'm sure you will find, you have already found good application to that in general exam preparation, is independent writing. It can, though TOEFL examiners, TOEFL preparation materials generally break that into 3 categories, like agree-disagree type. You've got a sample of the question here. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Children should be required to follow strict rules set by their parents. Pretty much the same area of topics as IELTS has. So that's, by the way, the only task with TOEFL that somehow takes a step aside from academic or very practical focus. And that's the only task with TOEFL that, well, I wouldn't say that it tests general knowledge and background knowledge. It generally probes your students into, once again, into reasoning. And it's not as strict as IELTS in terms of ideas, linking ideas, and so on and so forth, making it almost invisible and transient. No. TOEFL is about structure, vice versa. They want to see each idea highlighted and linked. They have to know that this idea has already started, that the examiner knows what to read and what to look for. Lilia, the thing is, again, officially, there is a recommended limit. There is no strict limit. What they write there always is that the effective essay will typically be The first one, 200, 250. The second one, 250, 300. Formally, at TOEFL, there is no stated limit which will make the rater cover part of the text or so on, or, for example, not read something. No, they don't do that. They are ready to read the whole thing and then mark you down for mistakes, for some unclarity, or for not being able to mention some points in the integrated writing. TOEFL, though they do not look for that level of development, extension, and cohesion as IELTS, they are much more precise, and they are much stricter in the way that generally any kind of mistake or step right or left is going to lose the student's points. So they have pretty much the same mentality in grading students' works as Russian examiners. You are allowed several mistakes, few. However, reality shows that more than two mistakes is going to lose you points. Absence of very direct linkers and structuring introductory phrases are going to lose you points. Not much in terms of flexibility. If you find in your archives the book with 500 TOEFL essays, you will see that there is not much flexibility in structure. Each point is clearly marked by a linker. Each point is clearly marked by an introductory phrase. So my first point is, I think so because the example of that is. That's TOEFL. Yes, correct and logical. Correct, logical, structured, following the pattern. Very much about that. Okay, the preparation materials generally break independent essays into three categories: agree-disagree type, three choices type, and preference type. Like, in your opinion, which of the following strategies is the best way for a student to prepare for a successful career? Studying specific academic subject, taking a part-time job, getting to know other students. Or preference type. Some people feel that high school students should be required to do volunteer work in their free time. Others think they should spend their free time studying and preparing for classes. Which do you think is better? Use specific reasons and examples. In fact, they all fall into the category of an opinion essay. And unlike any other exam, TOEFL doesn't really want you to explain the opposite point of view and their reasons. You start with yourself, you explain your position, and you end with yourself. Like classic opinion essay. And one more thing. TOEFL generally doesn't bank on balanced opinion. Ничего не напоминает? Like, if you are given a choice, you have to choose and stick to it. It's not IELTS, it's not Cambridge. Since you have chosen an option, stick to it. That is why the structure is easy. Introduction, you state the topic, you state your choice, and one thing that really... Мгм. А еще сочинение на ЕГЭ, да? Russian National Exam, absolutely. Так что we do have an example in the world, on the world scene. One thing that is essential for TOEFL is transition. And transition is actually another structure phrase. Like, you state the topic, you state your opinion, and then you generally kind of have to have to write down some of the phrases like, in the essay below, I'm going to explain the reasons for this. Or, my essay explains the reasons for my beliefs. So generally, you have to make the transition between your opinion and the reasons which are going to follow. The first reason is you explain what you mean by that, and then either there is a transition point bringing you to the example, or no, then you go for the second reason. Опять вернулись к цифре 2. Topic sentence, why you believe so, what exactly you mean by that, and give an example. And conclusion is easy as any opinion essay. You generally paraphrase your main idea in 2 arguments. Structure has to be perfect. The flight of ideas, well, of course, it is appreciated. Kind of content. It doesn't have to be simplistic. However, structure is a priority. And clear marking of what you are doing, how you are doing, and so on and so forth. I would like you to scroll down to the essay. Well, we've got it. That's a nice one. The person actually got more reasons. So read the question below. You have 30 minutes to plan, write, and revise your essay. So typically an effective essay will contain a minimum of 300 words. Typically. However, it doesn't mean that if you write more or less, you are going to be penalized. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Always telling the truth is the most important consideration in any relationship. Use specific reasons and examples to support your answer. Introduction is nice. The traditional virtue of telling the truth in all situations is increasingly doubted by many in today's world. Many believe that telling the truth is not always the best policy when dealing with people. Moreover, the line of a truth is becoming more and more vague. This essay will explore the importance of telling the truth in a relationship between people. We all understand that often the truth is offending and may not be a very nice thing to both hear or say. Then the next paragraph. The same logic applies to human relationship. The next paragraph. However, there is always the risk factor of the truth emerging sooner or later when telling an untruth. The next paragraph. In addition, another bad factor of telling untruth is that you have absolutely no control over when the truth will emerge. And final one. Everyone hates betrayal. How do you feel? What has the person got for that? Is it going to be a good essay or a bad one? Good point. This one is not counted. It's fine. Not great flexibility in terms of vocabulary. Tell the truth and untruth. Everyone hates betrayal. There is the risk factor. So generally, the vocabulary goes for something middle. But reasoning is provided. Structure is clear. He actually extends the essay, but still follows a very nice structure. Смотрите, что он сделал. Он увеличил эссе в 2 раза, но он оставил параллельную структуру. 2 пункта за идею, 2 пункта против идеи. И после этого вывод. Это нормально. That is okay. Not many people should do that and will risk to do that. So it's not ideal. However, still it is absolutely clear and so on. Yes, the person may lose points for not actually stating what he or she thinks clearly, because the person got kind of detached from the issue, go in more argumentative style than opinion style. However, generally, you can more or less read between the lines what he thinks. So he's going to be deducted a couple of points for that. But for nothing else. Capital letters are not counted. That's not a mistake, according to Americans. However, there are a couple of other things. As far as I remember, there were a couple of misprints. So generally, this one goes for 25, which is high level. В основном за то, что есть хорошие reasons, они четко выделены, они понятны. Экзаменатор четко видит структуру, и там везде есть примеры. 30. 30 это максимум, это пойдет. Да. И на этом эссе можете посмотреть, что такое сильные фразы, сильные грамматические фразы. Последний абзац, conclusion. Everyone has betrayal. Во-первых, на самом деле это идет на conclusion. И последнее предложение. Always. Это то же самое, про что говорят американцы, когда они говорят, что они ценят energy in speaking. TOEFL – это практически единственный экзамен, помимо FCE Review, где вы можете себе, или Article, где вы можете себе позволить публицистический стиль и попробовать поманипулировать эмоциями или чем-нибудь еще. И есть еще одна классная штука, которая на IELTS бы вообще не прошла. Увидели? Everyone hates betrayal. The same logic applies to human relationship. We all understand. Помните разницу между 7 и 8 на IELTS? Overgeneralization. TOEFL не про это. То есть на самом деле здесь скорее вам нужно быть достаточно убедительным, жестким, структурированным, чем реально показать владение коммуникативными стратегиями в том числе. TOEFL не здесь. So, quite a different type of an exam. I hope you like that. Now you've got a pack of materials to both familiarize yourself with and also just enjoy using with your students. I also hope that you will do that because as you have remarked yourself, it gives you a lot in terms of self-management, and it gives you a lot in terms of reasoning. On the other hand, some of TOEFL strategies and structures are highly applicable to Russian national exam, which makes these materials invaluable since still they are in English, they are written by English-speaking people, and they may benefit our students in terms of language, as well as in terms of applicable strategies. Mm, well, just thank you for this class today, and thank you for your comments, some of the questions. Have a wonderful week. Really. The spring is coming finally, hoping to all the areas and regions in Russia and over it. I'll see you in a week. We'll be missing you this week. And we are switching over to something even trickier than anything else we have been talking about before that. So, goodbye. Have a lovely week.
Центр онлайн-обучения «Фоксфорд». Курсы по всем предметам. Подготовка на разных уровнях. Лучшие преподаватели. Интерактивный учебник. Обучение онлайн. Поступай в «Фоксфорд». Начни обучение бесплатно.